Mr. President, over the past couple of weeks, the Obama administration's decision to engage with Iran, along with these other 5 nations, through diplomacy instead of military action, has faced key tests. The results are in, and the agreement that we struck, us, the Brits, the Germans, the French, Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, and us. The agreement we struck appears to be working thus far, and God willing, we may actually be on our way to being safer as a result. This test began on the high seas 2 weeks ago when the U.S. and Iran faced a crisis that could have ended tragically. 2 Navy vessels, U.S. Navy vessels, carrying a total of 10 crew members, strayed into Iran's territorial waters. They were detained by Iran, and as many of us know, they appeared on Iranian television. The American vessels were somewhere they should not have been. It was a mistake. As a former naval flight officer who served 5 years in a hot war in Southeast Asia and another 18 years right up to the end of the Cold War as a P-3 aircraft mission commander, I know this is a mistake we never want to make. Never want to make. Defense Secretary Ash Carter acknowledged the error had been made. The sailors were released unharmed within 24 hours of being detained. Flashbacks of past hostage crises and destabilizing tensions were on all of our minds as we watched this story unfold. However, thanks to a more cooperative and productive diplomatic relationship with Iran, the sailors were released within 24 hours. As the week came to a close, though, we saw additional encouraging validations that the administration's Iran strategy is beginning to bear fruit. Following months of the most intrusive nuclear inspections in history, international weapons inspectors concluded that Iran had indeed followed through on its pledge and the nuclear deal to dismantle the parts of its nuclear program that were clearly not intended for peaceful purposes. The International Atomic Energy Agency certified that Iran had reduced its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98%, and that the remaining uranium was only enriched to levels consistent with peaceful energy uses. The inspectors certified that nearly 15,000 centrifuges for enriching uranium have been dismantled. That leaves Iran with only its least sophisticated centrifuges, which can be used solely for peaceful purposes. The inspectors revealed that a special reactor for producing the kind of plutonium needed for a nuclear bomb in Iran will produce no more. It's been filled with concrete instead. Finally, the nuclear watchdog certified that the inspections and monitoring systems of Iran's nuclear facilities and nuclear supply chain had been stood up so as to ensure Iran's continued compliance with a nuclear deal. All this happened much faster than most of us would have expected. It certainly happened faster than I expected it would. In fact, some critics of the nuclear deal said that Iran would never live up to the promises it had made. Never. Yet, despite that skepticism, today we see an Iran that has taken irreversible steps to dismantle its nuclear weapons program in order to make good on its pledges. Mr. President, amid the nuclear deal's implementation, the U.S. achieved another diplomatic breakthrough with Iran, one that I and a number of our colleagues had a hand in. The Iranians released 5 individuals, all dual U.S. Iranian citizens that they had been detaining in Iran for some years. Their release was the result of intense diplomatic negotiations. Secretary Kerry and his team of negotiators worked overtime to secure their freedom. They deserve our appreciation and our thanks. I had never forgotten about these Americans, and neither had my colleagues. Whenever we spoke or met with senior Iranian officials in recent years, we consistently called on them to release our unjustly detained citizens. The end result is that these Americans are free to rejoin their families in America instead of rotting in an Iranian prison. The events and achievements that occurred during these 6 days were a remarkable validation of the Obama administration and those of us in the Congress who voted to support the nuclear deal, and that we had made the right choice. But our challenges with Iran have not vanished, not by a long shot. Iran continues to support terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. Iran props up the Assad regime in Syria. Iran tests and develops ballistic missiles in defiance of UN security resolutions. Another American former FBI agent, Bob Levinson, disappeared 8 years ago in Iran. And the Iranian government needs to do all it can do to help return him to his family, or if they can't do that, if he's no longer alive, at least help find out what happened to this American. And of course, Iran refuses to recognize Israel's right to even exist. Addressing these problems with Iran will not be easy. They will require the same kind of intense negotiation, pressure that helped to bring about an end to Iran's nuclear weapons program and the release of the detained Americans. That means that our relationship with Iran won't always be composed of carrots. There may well be at times when sticks are needed to try to convince that nation's regime to change its behavior toward us and our allies, including Israel. Perhaps no better action illustrates this dynamic than the United States' recent move to increase sanctions on Iran for its illegal testing of ballistic missiles, something that's in clear violation of UN sanctions. At the same time that the U.S. was lifting nuclear sanctions on Iran as part of the nuclear deal, the Obama administration was leveling sanctions against 11 entities for their role in supporting Iran's ballistic missile program. Addressing our challenges with Iran over the long term will also require this administration, along with future administrations and Congresses, to adopt a forward-thinking foreign policy that looks beyond the rhetoric of Iran's current regime. I have a chart here that I wanted to share with everyone tonight. It's really a collage of photographs. These photographs were taken, I believe, in the aftermath of the decision to approve the agreement. A decision reached by the U.S., our 5 negotiating partners, and the government of Iran. And this is a collage of photographs that indicates the measure of really joy that the Iranian people reacted to this successful negotiation with. I just want to say Iran is a little understood by most Americans. Iran is a country that got about 78 million people there today. The average age of those people is, I think, under the age of 25, a lot like the young people we see in these photographs. For the most part, they're well educated. A lion's share of them don't remember the Iranian Revolution of 1979, the taking of American hostages at our embassy, or the cruel Shah who we supported until his ouster. This is a population reflected in these photographs. This is a population that appears more focused on rebuilding Iran's troubled economy than pursuing antagonizing military activities favored by the supreme leader, that nation's supreme leader, and by many in the Revolutionary Guard. In the weeks ahead, this new generation of young Iranians will head to the polls sometime in the month of February in order to choose the country's next parliament and an entity called the Council of Experts, which I believe is the body that will choose or help to choose the next supreme leader of Iran. At stake for these Iranians is a choice between the policies of engagement, an economic revival being vigorously pursued by President Rouhani, Foreign Minister Zarif, and their supporters, as opposed to the politics of antagonism and destabilization that appear to be favored by the supreme leader and many in the Revolutionary Guard. We've seen photographs this week of President Rouhani, Iranian president, meeting with not just the Pope Francis, I think the first meeting between the leader of Iran and the Pope in close to 20 years, but also his meetings throughout Europe, calling on countries, calling on businesses in order to try to solicit and pave the way for investments not in weaponry, not in aid to Hezbollah, but investments in the roads, highways, and bridges. Things that we need, they need them a whole lot worse. Their roads, highways, bridges, their airports, their trains make ours look like 21st century. They need to invest in those things. They have a lot of oil in the ground. They have the ability to pump a lot more. I think they have pumping right now about 300,000 barrels a day. They have the ability to by the end of this year, pump as much as 1 million barrels of oil a day. And they're not going to do that without enormous investments in their oil infrastructure. And they have a great need to do that. And these young people know that. And that's where they would like to spend that money. We should make the upcoming, or help make the upcoming parliamentary elections in February for these voters and others an easy choice, an easy choice. We should continue to show the people of Iran that their cooperation and their commitment to peace will be rewarded. How? Well, with economic opportunity and the shedding of Iran's status as a pariah in the international community. We got to listen to these people. We ought to listen to these people. They're not much older than the pages that are sitting here in front of me this evening. They are interested in their country changing for the better. They're interested in reform. A number of them have relatives who live over here in our country. There's a lot of Iranian Americans that live here in this country, and for the most part, they're, I think, very valued citizens and people that we can be proud to call Americans. But we need to listen to these young people who are calling for reform, who want to reconnect Iran to the international community. And frankly, it would be wise of us to do so for the sake of our security and for the sake of our allies' security and for stability in the Middle East. Mr. President, I see no one waiting to be recognized at this time, and I'd like to ask unanimous consent that we enter into a quorum call.